All right, welcome to the Hooves and Grit podcast. This is Seth Conley Horsemanship. This is Aaron Bush and Cody Nave. We're going to just be talking a little bit about horses and balance and just kind of hanging out and take you all along with us. So we're going to talk a little bit about balance on horses and why it's so important. When we're working horses, that's the biggest thing. We start a lot of colts here at SCH, and biggest thing we find that people don't instill in the horses is balance. These horses, they come in and we start them, and first thing we do is we take them to the round pen and get them horses softened up, and really try to get them to give the eye and get proper flexion and learn to step their hindquarters around, not swing them, but step them around, and kind of use the motor of the horse and teach them to use it how they're supposed to. When we can teach them horses to move the hindquarter over, make the proper steps, get the shoulders across, and get proper flexion, left eye or right eye, whatever side is on the inside, it really creates a good base for our horses. That's what the goal really is of horsemanship. You're supposed to try to ride your horse balanced. The rider has to ride balanced, and the horse has to be balanced. No matter if you're doing dressage or you're roping cattle. There's many instances where you see horses, they get off balance, and then that's when certain things happen. That's all three of us have rode horses quite a bit. We've got on all kinds of operations, and like Aaron, you told me a story one time about you up in Montana. You were running a horse up a mountain, going full blast. How did balance play into that?
I mean, like, with the terrain being what it was, which was, like, rocky and gave way easily, and it was really uphill, you definitely wanted your pony to be balanced in a way that would make you not fall off the side of the cliff that we were going up, because it was pretty bad. Wasn't much room for error. But definitely played a big part in that, which it could have gone really bad if the horses weren't trained right.
What were you on? Because this is the funny part of the story, is he had flown out there. If I'm remembering the story right, you've flown out there, and it wasn't even so much. These horses hadn't really been broke, right? They were like unbroke colts.
They were bought from a guy like 2 days before I got up there, and the guy that I was up there with had these two, and he was like, we're just going to take them and ride them and get them right. Like, all right.
And what were y'all doing? Y'all going to check cows or going to get on the other side of the pasture or something?
We were going to try to, he'd never gone this way, but we were going to try to go over this hill so we didn't have to go all the way around the hill or the mountain or whatever it was.
Right.
So he's like, we're just going to try to go over the top of it, try to quicken the trip up. And these horses, I mean, from what I know, they've been worked a little bit, but they were still pretty green on fundamental stuff.
Right.
But up there, you get either you figure it out quick or your horse is going to figure it out quick on how to navigate the terrain. And whoever had the horse before definitely did some tweaking to make sure you don't die.
Get the balance right.
But yeah, it was.
So a lot of times, like around here, we don't see these horse balance because the terrain is pretty good. I mean, around here and where we're currently based out of here in Southern Pines, North Carolina, the terrain's pretty good. We've got nice flat ground. Other than maybe running across some slippery pine needles, you're pretty good. Maybe a hole where an old pine tree was, but there's not as much as when you're out west. Like me and my wife, we went out west. We were working out there, and we were going through some washes, some real deep washes on horses, and same thing. We're trying to get up over all them rocks and get them horses up. You can't really walk them or trot them. You kind of got to make them go. Because you're going up such a steep hill that at any time a horse slips, they're going to go back. So you got to keep that forward momentum when you're going up. And it plays a huge part. There's several times that I've been on horses, and we'd have a cliff face on the right side or a cliff face on the left side. And, all it takes is that one time where the horse has easy step and you're on the middle of that mountain and that horse, you end up falling off a mountain. So it can get dangerous, So that's why here what we try to work on and instill in these guys is, if we want to be able to put those horses' feet, get the reins of that horse connected to their feet, So if I pull back that right rein, that front right should move. If I pull back that left rein, that left front should move. If I lift my right rein, my hindquarters should come around. If I lift my left rein, my hindquarters should come around. And it makes it so that everything's good. Say you're going up that mountain and there's that cliff there. Your horse, say there's a cougar that jumps out or something crazy, which happens out there all the time. You got all kinds of stuff that happens, and a horse starts to panic or something. You being able to lift that rein and get the hindquarters so that you can either turn back and go down the mountain or keep on going without going off the edge is a huge benefit, rather than your horse trying to buck or slip and fall. So that's a huge thing. Cody, what did you learn about doing some balance when loping a horse? Recently we have a colt in here with he's got 40 days now, but this colt was at about 20 days, and we were really loping a horse. We were trying to get him to kind of do his first few lopes going around the arena. And what are some key points that you learned about setting that horse up so that the lope is nice and easy rather than it being something that is choppy and getting them off balance?
Well, you gotta have the proper flexion. So like you come around to the left, you need to have that. You need to have that left flexion.
Yep.
And have his nose bend in towards the inside.
Yep.
And your transitions need to be smooth.
Right.
You don't need to kind of like what he was doing that day, kind of jumping, almost like he was jumping into the trot.
Right.
You need to give him where he can go from walk straight into trot, and then make sure you have the proper flexion, make sure his hip, make sure his shoulders ain't diving in on your leg.
Right.
Because if his shoulders are too far in, then all his weight's on one side.
Right.
And he can't elevate into the lope. And I was struggling with that because I kept forgetting to get the shoulders off of me, so he was diving in.
Right.
And we got the shoulders up, and then we got the proper flexion, elevated his head, and it helped him.
So you were setting up that position so that you could transition into that, into that next gate. That's the biggest thing we see. A lot of these people that let them horses go on the forehand, and most of the horses that come in, or we go out to help and work with.
That barrel horse yesterday.
The barrel horse yesterday that came out here and we worked with it. It was pretty much the same. That horse got so much on the forehand that it kept running into the dirt, and we really had to get it elevated, get it up, and we actually did a lot of dressage movements on it to get that horse to learn to step its hindquarters over and carry itself and get his back rolled up and get him collected up underneath herself, because she was just pushing on the bit. She had learned through barrel racing to just bite down on that bit and push. And the best thing to work on getting them horses balanced is just don't give them a fight, right? So if they're pushing on your hands, just kind of give it away. And that's why you got to have that constant movement when you're working. If I'm going to the left, this left hand here is keeping my horse's head with proper flexion. My right hand's keeping that horse straight, right, and saying don't dive to the right, don't dive to the left, and keeping you. And it's also creating tempo. So I'm creating tempo with my legs, and I'm creating tempo with my hands, and so that's been a big piece to horses lately. Has been really just adding that proper balance to them so that they can learn to carry themselves. It's an interesting thing, and I mean, like we've had several times, several horses. Aaron worked with me, about 3 years? Worked with me about 3 years. We did lots of colts together, and we've learned a lot, since we started this, and we've had some great mentors. I worked a little bit with Cal Middleton, and then we've got a really great hand. Brian rode with Peter Campbell for like 11 years, and Peter Campbell's right underneath. He rode underneath all the greats. Tom Durrance, Ray Hunt. He rode right beside Buck. And Brian's rode with Buck, and he's rode with all them guys, Craig Cameron, all them good guys. And these are some pieces that are I really think that they are the most important pieces to put in the horse, just to get them soft, get them relaxed, get them let down, and our goal with getting a horse balanced is to try to find peace, let that horse find peace. And if you do these movements correctly, even our groundwork goes into doing stuff on the ground that translates into the saddle, and we try to get that horse where his front feet are standing right side by side, parallel, and they start to let down, they lick and chew, and they relax. It's amazing what it can do to really change a horse. So
what's that saying you got? Get to the horse's mind and the physical will come?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. So we work them horses with their feet, and then we try to move their feet. And as we move their feet, we get to their mind, and then after we got the mind, the physical comes. So that's the big thing. Really, we've worked all these horses with, and it makes just a good soft horse. We've got a horse in here right now. We put 40 days on and 40 days under saddle. His name's Charlie, and we done some work with him. And shoot, man, he we took him out and roped cattle with him and drug cattle. He had never even taken a dally on the horn, and he was dragging cattle and working trips, setting up trips and traps, and we were taking him across creeks and all kinds of stuff a few days ago. Yeah. So, but we'd spent a good probably 3 or 4 weeks. We were already riding the horse. I started the horse in about 40 minutes, was on his back. But during that riding process, we really worked for about 3 or 4 weeks just trying to get the horse balanced, because he was so off balance that you'd reach up there and grab that saddle horn and kind of move it, and his feet would just go all over the place. And now you reach up there and grab that saddle, and he knows where his feet are. So teaching them horses where to put their feet is huge. So, but yeah.
Well, going back to what you said about them having great guys that taught you, it's real good to have good mentors that know what they're doing, and that you can call them up and, hey man, I got this horse I can't figure out, and they can give you an answer and you can roll with it.
That's right.
Here's an example of that too, because back in Montana, I remember, if you remember this, there was a day I was out there by myself, and how these two horses were separated from everything, and they're in this, it was more of a pasture than anything, and it was pretty open. And I was out there by myself, and I had to go check a fence line that we had fixed up the day before. And I'm sitting out there, can't catch these horses. They're wild. It feels good. And I'm like, all right, I got to figure this out. So I'm sitting out there. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just try to, grain buck, something, just to get them over here so I can rope them and bring them in. Nothing's working. Call Seth. I'm like, Seth, see what's going on? I'm like, dude, I can't catch these horses. I've been out here for like hour and a half trying to get these horses. And I'm about fed up. And he's like, all right. Gave me the steps. Got them in. Tacked them up. Went out there. But it goes back to that. Having someone to call on when you need advice goes a long way. For you and even for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Makes that person feel, makes them know that they did good in teaching you.
Right.
You got a good mentor.
And I do that almost weekly. I call my mentors, and I talk to them. And, for the longest time I didn't have anybody. I really learned a lot of this stuff by trial and error, and it's a good way to learn, because you learn all the things not to do instead of the things to do. But having mentors, man, it really shapes your game up, and really changes how you think about things. But just finding a good one is a hard thing, So, but yeah, definitely being able to call somebody and have somebody to lean on. I mean, that's what the biggest thing in the horse community I see is lacking, is that everybody knows everything, and it's something that really is bad for the horse community, because we should all be helping each other. If old Susie down the road has been working horses 70 years, and she might not know a whole lot about horses. She might be somebody who's got, she goes out there and she still, hits her horse with a dressage whip or whatever, or a lunging whip, and gets them to run in a circle as fast as they can. But maybe she's got just that one thing that's going to help you one day, and being able to talk about those things and have an open dialogue is something that I think the horse community really needs, whether it's English or Western. Being able to actually pass knowledge over is something that would really benefit the horse community. And another point going off that is having mentors that want to pass knowledge on. And I see that as the biggest thing. Is the reason I didn't have mentors for so long is because nobody wanted to help. You'd go ask them old guys, them kind of old heads, and they would almost not want to help you. It's almost like they wanted to keep the knowledge for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've run into that several times, whether it's cows or horses.
Whole bunch back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever had that with like a cow situation?
Yeah, working at some of them sale barns, there's a lot of guys in there like, when I first started out, I didn't know a whole lot of breeds. And we'd get some come through and I'd tag them, put the little sticker on their hip, and I'd be in the back pins and sale was going on, and they was like, all right, go grab them tiger stripes or whatever.
Right.
And I'm looking around like, what in the world's a tiger stripe?
Right.
And I'm asking all these old farts. Right. And they're like, figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
I met Mark, and he's a old head, what I'd call him. He's an older guy.
Yeah.
And him and a bunch of other guys at them sale barns, they took me under their wing and taught me everything they know, but a lot of guys don't want to tell you.
Right.
It's almost like they want it to die with their generation. They don't want it to pass it on to us young guys and so on and so forth.
Which is so hard because it's slowly killing the industry,
Mm-hmm.
Since we've had, this in the last few years, we've had all these movies come out, TV shows and things like that. So the Western industry is finally growing again, which is great. But the knowledge that the old guys have, they haven't passed on. So now we just got a bunch of guys running around wanting to do this stuff, but they have no real knowledge of how to do it. And it's really it's good that they're wanting to do it, but having the knowledge is the biggest key to this stuff. Whether you're working with horses or cows, it'll save you from getting hurt or you hurting somebody else. It's gigantic. There's so many things that even when we first started this business, with me and Aaron, we would go out and we would do some cool stuff with these horses. But if we would have put these pieces in here and had some of this knowledge that we've learned, it would have shaped them horses up so much differently than just taking a horse and just taking it out on the trail and just making it work and do its job. Now we hardly even lunge our horses now. We start them out, we'll do we teach our horses feel and go to the right and hindquarters and back up and left, and if it may be a first silent or something, we might make it lope on lunge just to make sure it's good with the rear cinch. But really we don't make our horses even really sweat all that much unless we're out working cows or punching or doing something. Other than that, it's all mental, so it's a huge thing, the balance in the industry. So what's some times that you've had that in the sale barn that were just, if you would have had that little bit of knowledge, or if one of the other guys had a little bit of knowledge, how would it have changed the moment that occurred? Like say a guy got hurt or something, if he would have had just that little bit of knowledge, or that old guy go, hey, don't do this. Yeah. What could have it prevented?
There's one time I was in there and I was helping the boss. This was sale barn over in Oklahoma, and I was helping the guy, and we was sorting I think it was like 20 head of Angus, and they were all black. I think we was sorting off 2 groups of 10, I think. And the way these pens were set up was we was in a pen, and to your left you had a pen, and to your right you had a pen. And I don't remember what he was saying, but it was back when I was green. Didn't know nothing about cows really. And he said, what it was is it was there's 20 head and we was sorting them, and I got up in there and he's like, come help me. And I had no idea what I was doing. Like, this is my first time ever sorting cows on foot.
Right.
And so I was in there and, you're panicking, your adrenaline's running, you're like, don't kick me in the face and break my jaw. And he said, grab them three. And so I run up there and I grab them. And he's pointing off in this direction. And I run up there and I grab three and I send him his way. He swings that gate open. And he says, no, bring me two. And so I let them go ahead and run on in, and they shoot off down this alleyway, and they're gone.
Right.
So now I'm sitting there running, chasing them, and running through the cell barn, looking like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to get this cow to turn back and go back with the group.
Right.
And so we get done, we finally get it sorted. I think it took us like 30 minutes. Like, I was so bad, he's finally like, just get out of here. Like, just watch me do it. And he walked up to me after, he said, and I didn't know, and looking back on that, what I could have done was them first two cows went, and that third cow kind of got a little iffy. He was like, I don't know if I want to go in here. And that's when he said, only bring me two. I should have jumped in there and grabbed and jumped in front of that one and turned it back, but I didn't know it at the time. Right. And he told me, he's like, next time you can jump up in front of that thing,
right,
and force it back.
Yeah. It's a hard thing when you're in there and you're in that dangerous situation. You're working with something that's 1,000 pounds or more all the time. And you're working with these things, and whether it's cows or horses, you're working in there and you don't have the knowledge, but you're trying with everything you got, and you don't want to let your other guys down or get them hurt, so you're doing everything you can to protect your guys, and stuff happens, with cattle, with horses, stuff happens. But shoot, man, if you got just that little bit of knowledge from them old heads that they passed down, it really does change the game.
There's like, again, go back to cell barns, there's a lot of things in there that, like little things, like say you got a cow come down the lane, somebody's already pursued and they're running it back through the turnaround chutes, and they're like pen 7, and instead of swinging that gate out into the alley,
right,
open it towards the pen,
right,
and let that cow come in,
right.
There's no, like, little things, like getting told little things like that makes a big difference.
Big difference how to work
instead of sitting there and smacking the cow on the head,
right,
and making it turn back, and them guys having to push it back up. Somebody be like, hey, open that gate towards the inside.
Yep. We've run into that several times. I mean, we were pushing some bulls one time, and I was on horseback, and shoot, man, it was crazy. We had a guy in there, and he didn't know how to work the gate, and he swung that gate open, and he pinned me back against the panel, and this bull was supposed to be tipped, but he wasn't. And he come out, and instead of going straight down the alleyway, he turned back and got in between me, and I was backed up on a panel, and a panel, and a panel, and then the gate was in front of me. And instead of opening that gate so that bull could come in, he instead of opening it this way where out so that it blocked me and kind of got that bull to shoot out, he pulled it to the inside, and what happens, that bull came in and he just got in between me. Well, the guy that was on the ground, instead of taking that gate and closing it back up so the bull could find his way back out, he opened the gate this way, and what happened is it got that bull trapped in there with me, and I was stuck with a panel here, a panel here, and a panel here, and then a gate in front of me. And I'm sitting on my horse, my horse is sitting there getting hooked, and he hooks my leg, he's up underneath my horse, and finally, I had to just kind of ride my horse up and get that gate to move and tell him, hey, move the gate. He moved the gate, and finally that bull, he found his way out. He saw a hole, and those little moments like that of inexperience, it can really get you hurt, So it's a dangerous thing, but there's only so much you can do. Sometimes things just happen, people are moving fast, especially when you're pushing cows, sometimes it's fast, sometimes, and the best way to do it is just take everything slow. If everybody slowed down a little bit, it would help. But like you said, your adrenaline's going, you're moving fast, you got a flag in your hand, you're just trying to get the job done, you got to get it done usually under some kind of time frame.
So going back to what you said about learning, like old guys teaching young guys like me and Aaron here. Aaron, I'm sure you probably worked with some young guys about our age, and you've seen them, and they'll get told something, and they will just ignore it.
Yep.
Like, and all these guys want to be cowboys and everything, or colt starters, or ranchers, farmers, but they don't. The young guys, they don't want to learn.
Right.
I'm sure you've seen that before. I know I have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other side of it. So maybe the old heads stopped teaching because the young guys quit listening.
Yeah.
And so you got to see it in that light too. So I would encourage any of the older guys that are listening or watching this, we're still out here. These guys that do want to be here, we do want to learn. I'd encourage you to try to help us because any bit of knowledge is going to be beneficial. It save us from breaking our necks. Just like all them old guys taught y'all not to break your necks. So it's a big thing. There's so many things that I wish that I knew that I could either put on horses or work cows. If I would have just had somebody say, hey, don't do this, or hey, do this way, it would have really benefited. But yeah. But you got any other crazy stories? Anything crazy on horses?
We can go back to the
Let's hear that dog story.
Yeah, let's go back to that what you said earlier about like taking it slow.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. There is nothing more important, and I don't care if it's roping, pushing cows. I'm gonna use two examples here. And one's about me and one's about someone else. I'm not gonna name who it is, but it's about someone else. It doesn't matter what you're doing in life. If you rush it, you're probably going to get hurt, killed, or you're going to get someone else hurt or killed. So here we are, hunting a little cow down. We find it. The guy that was in front of us, has experience, whatever. We're going to take it slow. That's the plan. We built a game plan because of the area we were in, and we were going to execute this plan. And if we would have done it the way we talked, it would have been perfect. Well, instead of taking it slow and easy so nothing jumped up and took off, the other guy we were with decided to spur down his old green pony he had with him that had probably about 2 rides on it. Tell you what, I've never seen an animal move so quick in his life and a human go off the front of a horse so quick in their life. And that turned into a big chase. I ended up catching it. But if we would have went slow and easy, we wouldn't have had to chase this thing across the country and back a few times. So there's that. And then here's a personal story of me messing up, going a little too quick. We had I got a call about a cow that needed to get caught in a pasture because they're selling it. I was like, yeah, I'll be over there. First, I just walked up to it because I was like, I can just rope this thing off. No, this thing was charging at me. I'm like, come on, all right. So I go grab my horse. My brother stayed up by the gate so we could just rope it and drag it up into the trailer. Well, the plan was stay a little further and I'm just going to throw a shot, catch it when it turns to face me, and I'll just drag it. Well, the people that were coming to buy it wanted him tired because he was all over the place. So they were like chasing him around for a little bit just to tire him out. And I told him, I was like, he's going to go through a gate or a fence or something. He's going to smash through it. He's going to get scared.
Right.
He's going to get trapped.
Stirring up the cattle. It's just going to make them rank.
And I told him no, but they were like, just do it. Come on. Like, we don't want to. We're old. Like, they were older. They didn't want to deal with it once it got off the trailer. And I was getting paid to do it. So I was like, all right. But I told him, I said, you're telling me to do this, so if something happens, this isn't on me.
Right.
And I should have used
a job.
Right.
A job.
And I should have used my better judgment on this because it could have been avoided. But so instead of, taking it slow and easy, I'm like, all right. So I run it down. And as I'm about to throw my rope, because it's coming up to a corner, and I'm like, it'll slow down a little bit, and I'll just rope it. Nope. Boom! Right through these wood fence posts. I mean, it tried to jump it. And it just tore this thing down and took off. I was like, dang. So I rode back up, grabbed my brother. We rode back around, all pissed off. I knew it. I should have taken it slow, blah, blah, blah. We ended up catching it, but it wouldn't have taken 2 extra hours if I would have just, eased on up there and not listened to everyone around me. But, you win some, you lose some, you learn from it.
Yep.
So
learning lesson,
learning lessons. That's what it's about.
We've all been there, It don't matter what part of the industry you're in, whether you're pushing bulls in the back pen for rodeos, or if you're working horses and you get a little speedy or quick with your hands, or really doing anything, in this industry. If you get quick, you get hurt, or you get hurt if someone else does, or you hurt that animal, you hurt that cattle or that horse, So
I got a good story about that. I think it was right before I come down here last month. It was back in probably November, December. I was working. We was sorting steers and heifers back home on this guy's place, Mark's, and I'd done some, I'd done some sortings and stuff, but I'd never done it like he does, like we did there. And we was getting in there, and I was getting a little flustered, and my horse was getting a little antsy because I wasn't putting her where she needed to be and stuff. And Mark told me, he looked at me, he said, Cody, when I'm sorting cows, I got all day. He said, we got all day to do this. You just take it slow and do it right the first time, and we ain't got to ride back in the pens and go pull out 3 steers out of 65 heifers.
Right.
And so I slowed down, and we took it easy, and we got the job done in pretty good time. I think it took us 2 hours, and we was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, when working cows, slow is fast.
Right.
And
it's the same with horses, same thing, the slower you go about it, the better, and that's why you see a lot of times on rodeos, a lot of people get hurt, it's because everything's got to be done so fast, or in the pens, a lot of times you working in the pens, even, you're trying to vaccinate, trying to get them cows up through that in a squeeze chute, head gate, you're trying to vaccinate, preg test, you're trying to tip horns if you need to. You're checking for any disease or any snotty noses. You're ear tagging. You're checking for pink eye. You're making sure one's bred, one's open. You're checking every bit of that cow, and you've only got so long because there's one coming up right behind it. And if you're working a lot of cattle, you've got to get that done in that day. So you're doing everything you can to work them cows and get them up through there. And, sometimes just being able to slow down and even just slow your hands is what I've really learned with cattle and horses. Yeah. Sometimes us humans, we anticipate, just like a horse. You watch a horse, you do something with a horse, they get patterned a little bit, and then they're anticipating that next move they're about to make. I think us humans, we do a lot of the same thing. I got a funny story. Just like that, we were working some cows in the pens, and we had pushed this big old Brahma up into the up in the pens. We were ear tagging her, and I had done probably 200 head already, so I'd gotten real relaxed, and I was in my groove. You take an ear tag, flip a new ear tag, come around, run your vaccine, you come around, you write the numbers down. Old vet calls, open or bred, you write your thing down and you roll. Boom, 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 boom. You're rolling through it, and we were probably on like the 200 head, and I made the mistake because I was moving fast. When I went to go cut that ear tag, I put my face right over the top of that mama cow's head, and she had been pretty still the whole time, so I wasn't expecting it. And shoot, that mama cow came up, and she went wham! And she hit me right in the nose and broke my nose and shattered everything. I was bleeding all over the place, and I sat there with a good friend of mine, and we just kind of laughed because I was just bleeding everywhere. I looked at her, and she was like, "Well, you learned." And I said, "Yep, I did learn." So, moving fast, it gets you hurt so many times, and it's a dangerous. It can get dangerous quick in a matter of 2 seconds. You're running, and then bam, all it takes is that one mistake of leaning over too far or getting in the way, or you don't open that gate just right, or whatever, you can get hurt. It was but yeah, it broke my nose. I had old raccoon eyes for the next 2 days. So it's oh yeah. Same thing, similar story. I was on an Arabian that we were breaking, and we were off in the woods, and we were starting this horse, and she had done an absolutely phenomenal job, and we got off in some real dense brush, and somehow she got on this little oak tree, and that little oak tree went up underneath the rear cinch, and there was trees in front of us and trees to the right of us and trees behind us, and I was trying to get her to back up, but every time I'd back her up, that them leaves would just scrape her belly. Wow. And I'd come forward and it'd scrape her belly. So she got to where she wanted to move forward, and I was like, all right, go ahead. And she jumped up and lit off with a little buck, and she turned right. Well, she looked like she was going to jump, so I got ready for the jump, and she just stopped and threw her legs in the ground, and I came off over the top of her. Well, then that Arabian started to she decided to jump. So she jumped over the trees and landed right on me. And man, she's just sitting there, and she's all scared, so she's pounding her feet, and man, I was getting hoof prints all over me. She broke my jaw in half, and I went out for a few seconds, and another intern I had at the time, she was gonna call an ambulance because she thought I was dead. And I came to, and as soon as she said ambulance, I came to, and I said, no, don't you call no ambulance. At the time, I didn't have health insurance, so I was like, I told her, I said, go catch that horse. I'll get up. I'll be all right. And she went over there and grabbed the Arabian. I jumped back on her, and we had about 2 miles back to the barn. And I always do my horses, I don't like running back to the barn, so we took a real slow walk all the way back. Well, by the time we made it back to the barn, my jaw had swollen up. Just the most enormous size possible. And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and it was, I think you came out a few days later. It was awful. My jaw was like that for 2 weeks probably. Yeah. It was crazy. So, but what I should have done is just slowed down. If I would have slowed down and thought, right, I could have and been a little more handy. And what I would do now is I just reach down and undo that rear cinch, right, or step off the horse. But when you're learning those things and you're in that moment, you're moving fast. It can get you. It gets you hurt, and that could have been a moment that my life ended, and by the grace of God, I made it through, but that's how we learn these lessons, all them old cowboys, you think back at how they used to break horses.
Throw that bag over their head, on that bag. That's right. Get to
it. Throw a bag over their head, tie a foot up, and jump on, and you better hang on for dear life. You think of that. Some of them guys, it's amazing they made it as long as they did. We're doing it that way. Horsemanship has definitely grown to a level where now we understand the mental state and the physical part of the horse and the mental part of the horse enough that we're starting to be able to start these guys without creating a buck or creating a problem. So it's been a good thing with that, but it's a learning lesson every day, no matter if you're working with cows or working with horses. So it's been good, but well, shoot, yeah. If y'all have any questions or anything, y'all just comment, like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do, and stay in tune with us. We're going to try to do these every now and then and put these out and talk about different subjects. But yeah, the number one thing what I was wanting to touch on is just balance. Get your horse balanced, work them hindquarters. Make sure you got good flexion. For the longest time, I always thought that dressage stuff was kind of silly, and then man, has it improved my horses. It's made them horses good. If you're doing real good dressage, it can really change your roping game too. If you're ranch roping, being able to leg yield a horse and do a little hind around the front, it can change your loop dramatically. You'll be able to throw maybe an overhead shot or underhand or maybe a hula hand a whole lot easier because you're being able to move that horse over and you know, you're not scaring them cattle. You can move your horse over real nice and shoot. I've done it a lot recently where I've been able to throw a loop on a cow and them not even know they're caught, you know, whereas used to, you know, you running them things down and throwing a loop over, you know, them cows are jumping and they're all worried, and then you're having to dally quick, which gets you hurt, you know, whereas now you side pass that horse or leg yield that horse, you get that loop going, you throw that loop over that cow's head, and you just make you a slow little wrap or maybe track it out a little bit, you know. Man, does it change the game. So yeah, get them horses balanced, work on that, you know, that would be the biggest input I would have on horsemanship. And then as far as the rest of it, you know, whether you're working cows, working horses, you know, what the rest of everything we talked about, it sounds like get the knowledge from somebody who has it, listen more than you talk, and then slow down, slow the hands down, you know, move slow, you know, don't be, I'm not saying be lazy or be sluggish. I mean, just be focused and slow, you know, steady, you know, smooth is fast, you know, the smoother you go, the better, you know, so make everything smooth. Well, that's our first, that'll be Hooves and Grit podcast 1. It was great. Mr. Cody Nave had to step out. We thank Mr. Aaron Bush for being here and telling some good stories. And we'll catch y'all next time.